last Saturday, we had a special session with three sisters from several places, went to different parts of the world to contribute. That would be Sister Angeline, Sister Denise, and Sister Huishan. Three angels took flight and left the safety of their country of birth on separate missions to leave in their path a better earth. Sister Angeline. First was Sister Angeline, who had a steady and comfortable life in Indonesia, who thought an internship in Japan was really an awesome idea. When her affinity with Tzu Chi work in Tokyo took a deeper meaning, she found a calling back that she could not be ignoring. She understood her role, a younger member in a team of many elderlies, and the many projects that she experienced brought her significance and peace. So when a chance came, she took it, and now in Tokyo she resides, where her contribution matters with many bodhisattvas as guides. Sister Denise. Sister Denise undertook a road less traveled to a country bashed by typhoons, leaving in its trail a society disheveled. Most people will run from ruins, but not Sister Denise. She knew she can contribute to build people's spirits and put them at ease. Armed with all of Master's teachings and a determined resolution, together with the Tzu Chi team, more members were recruited for an amazing revolution. After the initial food distribution, there were pressing needs for permanent solutions. Soon agriculture projects were created involving local contribution. From farming to water supply to computer literacy, Tzu Chi prioritized youth education. Much can be improved as the youth form 44% of the population. More empowerment, knowledge sharing, encouraging morality were the themes. Community harmony was created and the effect felt like a dream. When the heart is willing and resolute, you do not need fancy techniques to create such positive ripples post-devastations in Mozambique. Sister Huishan. Sister Huishan first knew of Tzu Chi as an organization that collects old newspapers. Little did she know the positive future effects from the seed planted that was in store for her. A scholarship got her to the States, and there she resided and started her career. She and Tzu Chi found each other in Chicago, and there things improved year by year. She participated in medical missions and many disaster reliefs, each one confirming her choices and affirming again and again her beliefs. She stressed the crucial lessons from the pandemic on the environment of this earth where we all stay, and spotlights the limited time we have. Make haste and do not delay. So these three angels spread their wings away from home. Three angels spread their wings away from home, had much diverse stories to share. But one thing was common, one most important thing they unanimously declared. 'Tis the teachings of Master, the wind beneath their wings, that move their determined hearts, cloaked with virtuous teachings that changes everything. I pass this over to Brother Joe now to start today's Dharma class. Brother Joe.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks to Sister Tzu Chi. It was very wonderful to see the summary. Beautiful too. The three angels that spread their wings, that was a very good way to put it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to come to last week's session. In fact, it's been a while since the last time I've done much sharing on the Saturday morning English session. So I'm delighted to finally have this opportunity when all the stars align and the time is correct, is okay. So I really appreciate appreciate everybody who you are all continuing to do this. Now, I was actually listening in on early on when Brother Chin's sharing, and I thought there was a very good concept precise training, also committed training. I think that is something that maybe we can look into today. There's some connection with what I'm going to talk about today. Now, what I'm going to talk about today, there is a question posed at the end. But before we actually open the floor to everybody, I'm gonna have a little bit of time for everybody to think about it, and then I'm gonna go into QA. There are some questions that were left over from months ago, and I would like to get to them. And after I'm done with the QA, then we can come back to your response to my question, and also your thoughts and also your feedback. And then at around 7:20, before 7:20, we should hand over to the sign language performance sharing today. There are 3 Pusa that will be sharing today. So I think that's something that we're all looking forward to. Okay, so I look back to the sharings from before, and I realized it's really been 3 months. The last time I shared was May 22nd was the last time I shared on Saturday morning. So I apologize for the long absence. So today we're going to be talking about the 7 parables of Lotus Sutra. Very limited in words, but very abundant in story. So you're not going to see me with a lot of words on the PPT, but there will be a lot of still stories. Okay, so the 7 parables, I'm sure most of us are familiar, and probably all of us are familiar, and probably most of us can recite most out of the 7. Maybe not all 7. Maybe when somebody mentioned of it, you know, oh yeah, that's a story in the 7 parables, but it's not one of the story where you can right away pick out. But there are stories that you vividly remember, and there are many details of the stories, and I'm not going to get into the details, but it's something that I would like to talk about on the bigger scale of things. Okay, so the first parable it began. The first parable, it's actually from chapter 3, and the name of the chapter is called Parables. So you would know that there are going to be stories from here that's going to be in story formats. So it's chapter 3 parables, and it's the parable of the burning house. So we're not going to get into the details of the parables. In fact, that's what our book studies are doing every week. Right now, the book study session that we hold every week here at the abode, we're right now in this parable, and my goodness, it's almost, I think, 10 weeks now. There's progress every week, but it seems like we're trapped in this burning house for a long time. But anyway, so the main themes about this parable is that there's this burning house. The house is burning, but the children in the house that is burning aren't aware of the burn and aren't aware of the danger, or they are aware of the danger, but they don't know how to get out, or they like the danger and they see this as something that they are willing and happy to have. Okay, so in any event, whatever the reason is for them, for the people and the kids not to want to come out, whatever the reason that they refuse to come out, the fact is they don't want to come out. So how do you, as a guardian or as a parent, how do you get your children or get the people in the burning house to come out of the burning house? And most importantly, willingly. Okay, most importantly, to come out willingly. And that was one of the key aspects. How do you get them to come out willingly so that they don't come out and then run back again? Okay, so that's the parable of the burning house. And eventually the father or the guardian found a way to do that, and then gave them the 3 cards. Okay, so that's the first parable that we encounter. That was in chapter 3. And you see this barrage of parables and stories early on. Why? Because in chapter 2, there was the information and the content of chapter 2 was just too much. So I think there's a huge balancing going on because chapter 2 was very heavy in theory and very heavy in teaching. So 3, 4, 5, and then 7 there's like 4 parables, 3, 4, 5, and 7 chapter. They comes right after that to explain all the very heavy theories that comes from chapter 2. Anyway, chapter 4 is our second parable, and chapter 4 is faith and understanding, and that is exactly where we are here in the morning wisdom at dawn. And it's a parable of the lost son. So the son was lost and wandered away and came back home. And this is the parable that talks about how the father, or the guardian, again, the father, attempt and try to love and try to guide the lost son back on the right ways and to inherit the unlimited treasures and unlimited heirlooms from the father. Okay, so this is the parable. And once again, it talks about the father and the son, and how do you get the son back on the right track. Okay, so the third parable that we have is a parable of the medicine herbs. It's the part of chapter 5. And as the title of the chapter talks about, it's going to talk about the analogies for the medicinal herbs. And it talks about not about the people anymore. Okay, this is the first time that the parable exists outside of the people realm. Okay, I'm not talking about the ox cart. No, that doesn't count. I'm talking about the main characters in the stories. In this parable, it is for the first time, the parable exists using something more than just people. And in fact, using something more than family. Okay, so it's a big jump. Okay, it's a big jump. It's always about family, because I think people in the past know family, the values of family, and they understand what parents feel and how the children would feel. So this is a huge jump from the previous parables, in that this is talking about something that we could only guess, because we don't know how cloud works. We don't know how the sky and the rain and how the trees and the plants really do to absorb. We don't know. It's all an idea. It's all a suggestion of how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work in a natural way. So we guess that's how it's supposed to work. Okay, so this parable talks about the rain that comes down is equal in terms of equally providing the water to all the plants. However, the plants, there are big plants and there are smaller plants, the big trees and there are small trees. And with the sizes of the tree, you receive the water and you retain the water and you receive the nutrients all differently. Now, which one would you rather be? And this is the parable that goes a little bit further. It's not just talking about stories of the people. It gives you more to think. The previous 2 parables are mostly about stories of another person. Yes, it gives you thoughts. It gives you ideas about what you might want to do. But this parable jumps out of that, right? Because when you talk about the stories of parents and children, it's easy to make it into a story of someone else. However, because you're talking about medicine herbs, you're talking about plants, it's hard to make a connection. But when you do, it's even easier to get you deeper into the stories, because you're not just looking at a soap opera. You're not just looking at some drama that talks about somebody's father and somebody's son. Okay, so that's the third parable. The fourth parable is coming from chapter 7, parable of the phantom city. So this is the fourth parable, chapter 3, 4, 5, and then 7. This is the fourth parable, and it talks about the phantom city. And this is an idea. It's a simple parable in that there's a guy. So right away, this relationship, we used to have the father and the children. Okay, father and the children in the first 2 parables. The third parable is about nature. It's about nature, the one that gives and the one that receives, right? The sky that brings down the rain and the plants that receives the water. Okay, so now the relationship changes back to that of teacher and student. the guy and the student, the follower. So the parable of the phantom city changes that relationship a little bit, and to make sure that it's no longer just about family, it's not about nature, about our interaction and our relationship with nature, but rather it talks about the relationship between a teacher and the student. Okay, and then it talks about somebody who's on this tour, and thanks to the guy, veer away from all the dangers, but the followers and the students are tired and they want to turn back. So what do you do to keep them to go on? Okay, so the next parable, see right away, it's 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. These are like 5 different parables in very quick succession, so that people get to the stories, understand the stories, because chapter 2 just had way too much teaching that there has to be a lot of balancing to get people to understand and get people to like it. Okay, so chapter 8 is a prophecy of enlightenment for 500 disciples. And this is the parable of the jewel in the robe. Now, this is the parable that talks about a drunk relative coming to visit the protagonist, or the protagonist is drunk and went to visit his relative. And after they talked about it, explaining how bad shape that he's in, the relative had to leave on some important manner. So before the protagonist can wake up, the relative hid this jewel, this precious jewel, in the robe, and then left. Okay, and eventually the protagonist still didn't know about the jewel and still go about his ways of life, which is very lacking. And eventually saw this relative again, and the relative says, I gave you this jewel, why didn't you use it? Well, I didn't know I had it because it was hidden. Okay, so there was a whole point about that you have it in you, but you didn't realize it, and are you still looking? Okay, so that was a parable. And once again, this is a relationship that is less like the parent and children, because it's talking about relative and friend, and it's not also about teacher and student. They're sort of equal. Right? There isn't a jump or a difference in terms of their levels in society, but only with how success they are. So there are many different relationships we can see from these parables, and that's something that I wanted to bring out to everybody. You know, when we see these stories, they are linked in a chain. They're trying to map out the complete story. It's not just one story fits all, but it's all these different stories and all these different relationships that I think is very interesting if we can go look into it, and we realize that each story the stories are mixing up, and also it patches things that the other stories didn't have. Okay, so now after this, the 5th parable, we jump to chapter 14. So from chapter 9 to chapter 13, there were still much more teachings, and there are stories, not parables, but there are stories. There are still to make it easier to understand. But in chapter 14, now this is the story that is probably less talked about. This is the story that's less talked about because for the reasons why it's a little bit different from the other. We're going to talk about it later. Okay, so this is a story where it talks about the king. So it talks about the king, and there were invaders, and the invaders came in, and you have the generals leading the troops, leading the army, and fighting off the invaders and winning very important victories. And they were able to not just fighting off the invaders, they're able to take on their enemies head on and going to the enemy's territory and grabbing these territories. Now, the whole point about this is that the king giving off these treasures or these rewards for the generals who are making wonderful and making progress in terms of the war front. But when the general made the very it's not made the very, very good progress or made the achievements that were never done before or very rarely done before, then the king will take out the most precious gift that the king can give. Okay, and that obviously parables with the idea that the Buddha, towards the end of the preaching, finally discloses and teach the Lotus Sutra. That is the most precious. Okay, so this is the chapter 14, and this is the one that usually people can easily forget. I mean, the first 5 are the ones that people recite more. This is probably the one story that people miss the most often. Like if you think about, I'm counting all 7, this would be the one that you miss very often, okay? Because it talks about different type of relationship. It talks about the type of relationship that exists in the king and the general, or the employer and the employee, or there's this relationship where you have a leader and then you have someone who follows. Similar to the Phantom City, but not quite. This is like employer-employee relationship. The next chapter, chapter 16, the last of the parables is the parable of the skillful doctor. Now, this goes back, even though the title is the skillful doctor, but it goes back to the relationship between the father and the children again. Okay, so you would think about all these stories out of the seven, there are 3 that talks about the father and the son and the children. Okay, it tells you very strongly why. Because back then, this is probably the strongest bond, or the bond that people are mostly familiar with. Now, you might be thinking that why is the Buddha? Okay, so let's go into the all 7. Okay, so you might be thinking, why did the Buddha in the Sangha, where everybody's supposed to be, ending their lay life, why would they keep on talking about the children, right? And I think one of the most important reasons is because these stories are supposed to be preached to the public, to the common public, and they understand this most, right? They probably don't know much about the medicinal herbs, right? They probably don't know much about the precious pearl in the top knot, because they don't have precious pearl, and they don't understand what would be their most precious gift to give. And maybe they're not employers, they're not kings, so they don't understand. It's probably only coming from stories. Okay, so that's why out of these stories, a lot of them are talking about family and people that you are related to, right? Family members, the jewel in the robe, especially people that are in tattered lives. That's something that people can understand, because usually the public, they're suffering. Not many people are wealthy, that they're not well off. So these stories are always talking about that, being sick, being lost, being sad, being down, being in a disaster, in a burning house. And these are very common. This is a very common thing that exists throughout all of this. Now, going back to the 7, okay, I'm gonna keep about 10 to 15 minutes toward the end before I open this up to everybody, okay? Because I wanted to ask this question: parables of Lotus Sutra, which one do you like and why? If you have to, out of the 7, you can just write down the name, or you can write down the number. That's fine too. You can reply on chat which one you like. You can briefly explain why, and we're gonna get into your choices later, okay? But I ask all of you to think about why, and I'm gonna open it up later, so that I'm gonna ask you guys to share why do you like which one, and why, right, and why. Okay, so one of the things that I found out that I like to do is to look to the similarities, to compare and contrast the 7, and that's why all the things that I talk about while I'm explaining the parables, it's all talking about a contrasting and comparison. But one of the things that I quickly looked through, and I pick out the one that I like, or pick out the one that I think is something that I want to keep deeper in my heart. So out of the 7, like, let's look at the parable of burning house, right? It talks about the father, how and thinking, right? Turning the brain to think and to want to save the children, okay? And is trying to use different ways. Parable of the lost son, once again, the father is thinking, the father is wondering how I'm going to get my son back on the right track. The parable of the medicinal herbs, it's finally talking about, I think it talks about 2 different perspectives, the one that reigns and the one that receives the rain. In fact, it's talking more about the one that receives the rain. It talks about in a different perspective, in that the rain is going to come down, but how much do you want to get? It's up to you. So it switched the perspective. Before, it used to be the father. What are you going to do to save the children? Now you are in the perspective of the children. The water is coming down. The rope is there. What are you going to do to grab onto it? So you can choose. You can choose to receive all the rain, or you can choose not to receive all. You can just receive a little bit. That's up to you. Number 4, parable of the fantasy. It goes back again to the perspective of the teacher. What are you going to do when you're faced against these children that just don't want to continue, right? Parable of the jewel in the robe. Once again, it talks about what the teacher and what the guide has given you, but it talks about the fact that you are unaware, and it's something that triggers. It tries to get you to think about: are you the one that gives, or are you the one that receives? So this is a little bit, the roles are a little bit flipped, but they're also not very clear. It gets you to think more about who you are in this role. The protagonist isn't as clear, but it talks about a story. The more important thing is the jewel, okay? I like number 6 the most, okay? Out of the 7, let's go to 7 now. Parable of the skillful doctor. Now, in this particular parable, it talks about the doctor that wants to administer the medicine, and the children just don't want it, right? They sometimes take it, sometimes they don't. They believe it, but they don't want to take it. And so the doctor went far away and then tell them, I'm not coming back, and you're on your own. And then the children began to be very, very nervous, and they began to take all the things. They began to take the medicine, and then they feel sad because now they don't have a doctor. They don't have a doctor father to rely on. Okay, so once again, it goes back into the role of the father. The father is trying to get the children to do something, right? So once again, once you're going back to the father-son relationship, it goes into what are you going to do to teach the children? Why did I like number 6 the most? Because I think out of the 7, this is the one that talks about something that you just have to do, right? It tells you, yeah, it's all about making choices, right? Part of the duality of the relationship. In this parable, it talks about the general who has to fight through all the challenges and all the not very good in terms of Buddhism. You have to fight off all the vices, all the challenges, and all these enticement, all these afflictions, in order for you to get to the last stage. All the other 6, they're talking about, I'm gonna give you something, or I have given you something. But this one is different in that it talks about you have to do more to get it. If you just do normal things, I am only going to give you normal things. But if you do more than normal things, then what you get is actually extraordinary. Okay, so the parable of the burning house. Yes, if you choose to come out, I'm going to give you the great white ox. But it's still talking about the father giving, right? I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to help you to inherit the family heirloom. I'm going to help you to inherit the family treasure. and I'm going to lead you out of this path. I'm going to rain down. You're just going to receive the water. I'm going to put the jewel in your robe, and I'm going to give you the medicine. Everything is about giving, giving, giving. But in parable 6, that's the one it talks about. You can work hard, and you're going to get the equal return. But if you work extraordinary hard, then you're going to get the extraordinary reward. And that's what this is. That's what I think Master is talking about. How much you put in is going to be how much you get back in terms of the cause and effect. So you have to work additionally hard. Don't just stay in the middle of the road and say, I'm fine now, I'm done. Okay. So these are, that's the favorite one. Not if you ask me maybe a month later or a year later, I'm going to tell you a different answer. But as of now, this is the one that I think is most interesting. Okay, so I am going to go into the chat and I'm going to look everybody's response because it's already 7:08, and as usual, I talk too much. So that's why I don't have time to go into the QA. But I'm gonna get into. Okay, so I realize. Okay, so I see Sharon at first is it's only doing translation. Okay, well, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon, for doing the up-to-date step-by-step sharing. Okay, so Stephanie, okay, son and father. There are many parables with son and father. So would you like to talk about which one? Would you like to open your mic and share about why you picked this one?
Ganun sa kong saran. Why I choose number 2 because I think Fumo always accept what the children mistake, and then they always say like, "It's okay, everything okay," and then they are always teach with love, and then teach with compassion, and then with nisin. So was the one second parable so for Ganan.
Okay, thank you. A very lovely sharing. Yes, indeed. All these parables, one of the most important thing is it wants to raise our emotion. It wants to raise your awareness. When you begin thinking about your own relationship with your parents, this story becomes even more real. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Yokmei, Sister Yokmei, you mentioned 3. The third parable is parable of the medicinal herbs. Would you like to explain everybody why?
Yeah, because when I actually listen to Dharma and also listen to other people sharing, I can imagine, like, because my root is very small, right? So I can once I understand, I can imagine my root is actually stronger a little bit, and a bit stronger. So it's about more on when also when I look at other people trees, why they're so strong, right? I'm very happy because definitely they have a way of they do that I didn't do, so therefore they can understand more, like brother Joe Huang and sister Tzu Chi and a lot of sister Effie, a lot of the role model here, right? So I can see, wow, this is what they have done that I didn't commit to do it. So therefore I feel like this is very important for me to imagine I am actually growing. So and also I'm actually practicing. Like yesterday, I actually conduct a sharing, a training to my client about 环保in their factory. So although it's all basically they are foreign workers, and I try to use my Bahasa Malaysia that I haven't used for a long time, but I can see the sparks of their eyes because of the Tzu Chi path, right? I have experienced deal with them and been in their country, like in Myanmar, and also deal with the Bangladeshi. But now they are work in our country. I can talk more about what happened into their country because they do not protect, and we all of us do not protect our environment. So I'm so glad that I can see the sparks from their eyes, because they know that when they pick up the rubbish. Once they pick up the rubbish on the floor and put it into the recycle bin, they are actually doing something good to the mother nature. So and I can imagine, like I like this parable because I can imagine if, let's say, the mother earth is my mother always give me some things, but I always take and take, and I always think of how much it costs myself, then how much it costs my mom, my mother earth. So these some things like this morning our Dharma master sharing about today 5 o'clock sharing also learned that we always think of how much it costs us, never think of how much it costs our mother earth. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Yogme. Yes, indeed. As mentioned before, the 7 parables have different connections, and this one is the connection to nature, indeed, and not just about the rainwater and how the plants and the trees hold the water, but rather it's about connecting to something bigger, right? Something to maybe society, maybe nature, maybe Mother Earth. So thank you, Sister Yogme. So everybody, while we're listening to this, we're thinking about other stories. We're hearing other people thinking about their connections to these stories. This is wonderful. Okay, Sister Irene, you mentioned 2 of them, the lost son and the medicine. Can you briefly explain to us to share to everybody? Thank you.
Good morning, Brother Joe. Yeah, I'm one of those who can't remember all the 7 parables. So I'm very happy that Brother put it this way. And it touches me on the parable of lost son because I relate myself being lost for 50 years, 40 over years before I see myself slowly get back to Tzu Chi. And now I found my home. And I hope that after I find my home, I hope I can help others find their home too. And the parable of medicinal herbs, I relate it to, I was the lost seed that hidden in the rock for many years, so long time. And now luckily with the Dharma rain of water and the condition that I slowly emerge from the hard stone and rocks. And so my roots is very tiny. But although tiny, I tell myself that I will keep on capturing and slowly grow the roots, because I used to think why I listen and I can't capture and it leak away. So actually this morning I really see, because I have tiny roots, but that doesn't mean I will give up, because I will keep growing these little tiny roots that is so difficult to germinate. And hope if this lifetime cannot grow bigger roots, never mind, this plant will go lifetime after lifetime. Brother Joe, thank you.
Thank you, Sister Irene. And I wanted to echo what Sister Yogme said. You're fine, Irene. You're doing wonderful, and you're brilliant. And I wanted to echo what Sister Yogme said. You both shared about the third parable, which explains that you both mentioned that you believe that you have the tiny roots, but it's not about how big or small the roots are, but rather the importance of that the roots are working. The roots are receiving the nutrients and the water and feeding to the entire plant, and not too much, otherwise it will rot, and not too little, otherwise it prohibits growth. Just the right amount so that it's going to grow bigger and bigger. And I think that was the key. So thanks to both Sister Yogme and Irene also talked about the third parable, which talks about the relationship with Mother Earth, and also perhaps a little bit with our mother as well. Okay, so and Sister Irene talked about the lost son, because once again, that is the feeling you have the deep connection because that's how you feel about yourself. Okay, so we're gonna go to Yvonne. Yvonne, pick number 4, which is the parable of the phantom city. Would you like to explain and share?
Good morning, Brother Joe. Actually,
Hi.
Everybody, brother and sister. Actually, I only know Lotus Sutra last year. I'm only at chapter 4. Sorry, Master taught us until parable of the faith and understanding, the parable of son. But somehow I like this phantom city because I relate to you know, Buddha has always been looking for his son, and finally there are a group of people that, you know, willing to follow him on the journey of Bodhisattva path. But he knows that all of us are made up of different capabilities, right? Some at primary school level, some at tertiary, and some vow might be greater than others. Just started making the vows, and because the journey is very long, some of us will easily feel tired or give up, and our muscle is not strong yet. So he has to think of a way, you know, somehow we are still ordinary being, we haven't reached the stage of normal being, but we can easily bluff the mind to say, oh, it's still very near, soon you're going to reach the destination, just for a few more steps. So that's how I look at the phantom cities, like, you know, it's also a resting place for the group of people that somehow have the affinity with Buddha and follow in the journey, for them to rest a little while, recuperate their strength or whatever it is. And when they rebuild their strength or their aspiration and the vow, then they can continue on to the next phase of the journey. So that's how I see phantom cities about. I don't know the detail, but I just know the surface. I hope I'm not far off from my understanding. Kan'an, Brother Joe.
Thank you, Sister Yvonne. And that's exactly how the story is supposed to make us remember, right? There are much more details than what we're doing right now. But at least it gives you a big picture. And I think the most important thing is that Buddhism is supposed to help you, guide you on the path. And this story guides you on the path. It doesn't tell you you need to take, 30 centimeters for every step. It doesn't tell you that. It just tells you this is the general direction and this is the path for you to walk on. There are details that if they are important to you, you will remember. But for the most part, it's to remember the general direction. So even though you haven't gotten to that chapter yet, but I think it's important to know the big pictures. And when you get there, you'll know more. Okay, so thank you, Sister Yvonne. And we're moving on to the next Sister Qiu Guixiang. Once again, one more vote for the parable of the medicinal herbs. And would you like to explain why? Sister Guixiang. Qiu Guixiang. Do we have Sister Qiu Guixiang to share with us? Okay, as we're running short on time, we're going to take your vote and know that this is the highest vote for all the parables right now. Okay. Oh, okay. Everyone's favorite, Sister Xiu Qing. Okay, would you like to share to everybody why you picked Burning House?
Karen, Brother Joe, for the wonderful sharing and linking everything, and all the sisters sharing. Burning House reminded of present conditions. Indeed, I agree. At different times, the choice on the parable may differ. At this point of time, suddenly aware that in the past we always said humans, our strength is able to adapt to conditions very well. But at this point of time, this is not the right thing to do, not to adapt to the burning place and stay on it, lingering on it, but instead have to be aware. We are very grateful to have Buddhas and Masters to guide us, let us realize that this is the burning house to wake up and leave behind and go towards the big ox cart. But what about those who are still around? So we hope that we could also help not let Master be outside alone, and help to encourage them to leave behind this burning house, and as well as the actually medicinal herbs. Also, I agree with many sisters who choose this. It's also reminded, I don't know, somehow it reminded in the era when there's no, if I can't find Master or Buddhas, could I be using this, the medicinal herbs, the nature is always around, as like the realizer still realize the teachings from the natures around, even as a small root, small herbs, but ever ready to absorb the teaching. Okay, back to you, Brother Joe.
Okay, thank you, Sister Xiu Qing. Always wonderful to hear your sharing. Indeed, I think it's this is the parable that has a lot of implications and a lot of extensions that we can do. Okay, so as time is already 7:21, I would like to do one more, but raise your hand, please. I can't, everybody's wonderful stories, and I even see Brother Chin responded to. Did I see Brother Chin? Yeah, I thought I did see Brother Chin said number 7. Yeah, skillful doctors. Okay, so raise your hand if you would like to share, and we're gonna go on to this last person, and then we'll move on to the sign language. Last person, come on, let's raise your hand. The first one to raise your hand will be the one that gets to share. Okay, the way I put it, then I think, oh, okay. KP, Sister KP, right?
Yeah, it's me.
Yes, okay, yes, please.
Yeah, well, I think, for me, it's the burning house, just like Sister Tzu Chi. It's very much what we are experiencing right now, but we are still so foolish, so confused, not knowing that the rooftop has already been burned off and, it's falling down on us, each of us waiting for each other to do the right thing, but never have that, effort, don't want to put in the effort. Just like yesterday when I was with, a team of people, we were talking about carbon neutral and carbon set off. And they were all talking about different ways. So then I said, the best way to go carbon neutral is to be a vegetarian, right? And then everybody laughed at that as if it is something that is so funny. And I asked them, what is so funny about that? If you want to save Mother Earth, you talk about climate change, then change has got to start from yourself, go vegetarian. And they just don't believe it. So that's what I keep saying, that we are in the burning house, and yet either we are unaware, we are unwilling to go out and do something about it. And that is actually a frustration that, I constantly have when I talk to the corporates. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister KP. I think wonderful, all different connections, with burning house connected to the burning world or the climate change and extreme weather issues. Wonderful. And I think was it Sister Yvonne or Sister Yogmei that talks about the connection to the environment, Mother Nature, and also to her mother who passed away. So I think all these are very important connections that we are having. So if you remember all the way back, how do you understand Dharma? One of the most important things is through stories, and not only through stories, but understand the stories. When you get to hear other people, their connections and extension, you get to understand these stories even more. And I think that's the most important thing. You share these stories. You don't share the details, but you share the ones that you feel most connected to you. And then it makes it very, very deep and memorable. That's how the Dharma can be passed down. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to pass it over to Sister Lily, or the host today. And then we're going to go through our wonderful sign language sharing. Thank you.
And wonderful sharing by Brother Joe and the teams, all the great sharings today indeed. Yeah, we hope to have this more often. Everyone's, yeah. Okay, back to the next group of sharers, the Pure Hearts Sign Language team. They are likened to these lotus flowers that blooms in the muddy pond. This group indeed is a pandemic era baby, born in August last year. Upon hearing this song, Beauty Sui, sung by a volunteer during a close session with Master, I think in Taiwan. This idea came about. And so there were 5 volunteers. They performed this sign language song for Beauty. Then subsequently, the sisters realized that, we could do more than that. Then this started, that's the seed, and indeed, because of the steadfastness and the precision training every Sunday, this group, brothers and sisters, are solely from one place to many across the world today join in the session. Okay, let us, without much delay, we invite Sister Epi to guide us through today's sharing.
Kayan Sister Tzu Chi, and good morning, Brother Joe, and all the birds who are present with us today this morning, and all brothers and sisters. Just a short introduction. Our Pure Heart Sign Language team is humbly honored to present our performance later in a few minutes. And this song this morning is The Spirit of Great Love, you see. And there are 26 of us here, and we are very happy to have 4 from Tzu Chi and to join us in this particular session. And later they will share, led by Sister KarPeng. Sister Angeline from Japan, Sister MiaoLinIN from Philippines. Yeah, we are very grateful to our sign language instructor, teacher, who patiently guided us in all the practices, and also to Brother David, who's doing our video recording, refining them, and we hope that this song can bring love, master's teaching of great love, and at the same time, let this love be something that we can take time to cultivate, to nurture. And also, we are grateful that after each completion of each song, all of us are doing a donation at free will. And for this time, we have collected the free will donations amounting 1,000 ringgit, and we are donating it to the Malaysia Solidarity COVID-19 Fund to help to purchase medical equipment and other medical related material supplies to support to combat this COVID-19. So let us continue to aspire to fill our hearts with all the love from all the people and the sentient being, and may we take this love and continue to be as pure and clear, like clear water. Let this positive energy continue to make up the world of Tzu Chi. Without much ado, let us enjoy this song.
forgive all the sorrow, blame, and worry. Just let go.
To all the brothers and sisters who are performing with us here. We are happy, and let us continue to aspire to fill our hearts with love. We have 4 Tzu Chi to join us. And despite the weekly practices on Sunday, we believe that Sister KarPeng is very busy with her various engagement in solitary funds and all donations campaign and other. Yet she still has the time to join us, again in this performance. And let us invite her to share her thoughts. And also we shall invite Sister Angeline from Japan and Sister MiaoLinIN, followed by Sister MiaoLinIN from Philippines later on. Back to Sister KarPeng. The platform is yours.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Good morning, Brother Joe. Yeah, when Sister YY asked me to share this morning, I was thinking, what am I going to share? So anyway, I will, share with you my attempt at sign language. The first time I was exposed to Tzu Chi sign language, it was back in 2015, watching the water repentance performance. I loved it. I thought it was so gentle, and I saw the beauty in the unison in the movements. So that seed was planted back in 2015, but unfortunately that seed fell in the desert. So, I constantly, thought that I want to learn, whenever Tzu come out with a new sign language program, and I thought, oh, I'll sign up for it. But I never get to really do it because, I'm always sidetracked with other things, Tzu always have something else that is happening. And I always wonder if I can do it. They all look so gentle, so beautiful. I mean, I can punch, I can kick in Kung Fu, but I don't think I have that gentleness. So I suppose I have all sorts of excuses not to do it. Not until, in March this year, after watching, Sister YY and her team leading, in the performance of Xing Yuan. So after the performance, I thought, oh, I should let Sister YY know that, I really love it. So I sent her a text message and say, oh, thank you, Sister YY, for the great performance. And somehow at the end, I added a line to say that I wish I could learn. And that's all Sister YY needed, right? To hear. And then immediately she texted me back. She said, oh, Sister KarPeng, you must come and join us, Then I said, just in case I don't have time. And you know what Sister YY said? Never mind. Whenever you have time, call me and I will practice with you. And then, Brother David sent a video and he put everything in slow motion, the sign language, right? And then he has got this right and this left. So there is no excuse that you don't know and you can't do it. So I decided that, okay, I will pluck up enough courage to take on the challenge. So when the teacher is diligent, the student cannot be indolent. And they are like the waves, that propel me forward in this new endeavor, I must say, right? So that was how it all started. And what I realized was that, I started to appreciate the beautiful teachings in a song. And these are like words that you can express in action and it add depth to their meaning. And it was, I call it a coincidence that Sister YY actually picked these two songs, Gratitude, Respect, Love, Kan Ân Chun Chong Ai, and then The Spirit of Great Love, Pu Tien San Wu. And these two songs are of great significance to me. And because that I believe that is what actually started my initiation in Tzu Chi. And if I can sidetrack a bit, to say how I actually got into Tzu Chi. In 2013, when I was in Melbourne, after a cup of cappuccino and a croissant, I went back to the hotel, and this was in Citadine on the Melbourne city centre. I look out the window into the skyline of Melbourne, and suddenly I was overwhelmed by this, feeling of gratitude. And that was like, I have so much love to give. It's just that moment of time that I always remember. And I started cheering, and I don't know why, it was kind of uncontrollable. But, after I come down, and of course, nothing happened, right? I just went about doing the things, but I always remember that moment of, overwhelming gratitude and that great love that I want to give, but I don't know how to start. I don't know where to start. And then at about the same time, Sister Karen T or Sister Elsie sent me this book, Master of Love and Mercy. I picked it up because Master's picture was on the front cover, and I thought she looks so familiar to me. And I called Sister Elsie. I said, Elsie, I call her Nun at that time. I said, she looks so familiar to me. I don't know where I've met her before. And then Sister Elsie asked me, have you been to Taiwan? I said, no, never before. Then she said, well, you wouldn't have met her because Master has never come out of Taiwan. So that kind of intrigued me. And I said, okay, I'll read the book. I read it very quickly. And to say the least, I was really, really inspired by that kind of selflessness, the kind of compassion that Master has. But actually what caught me most was this phrase, no one I don't love, no one I don't trust, no one I will not forgive. And that makes me even more intrigued, because I said, how could that be? And I was in the midst of going through a court case where someone actually cheated my company of a significant amount of money, and I was the one who made the report to the police, and I have got to take the stand as witness. And you can imagine the kind of anger that we were going through, right? Being cheated, someone forged my signature and that sort of thing. And I said, how could I not how could I ever forget, this kind of incident? How could I forget what this guy has done to us? And here I read about Master saying that there's no one I don't love, no one I don't trust, no one I don't forgive. So I said to myself, I want to meet her. And so I did, went to Taiwan thinking that, I can just walk in and meet Master. So happened that time in June 2014, Master actually went Xinjiao. But nonetheless, when my friend invited me to go to Taiwan, I said, yes, I'll go with you all, but you all will have to come to Hualien with me because I want to go and visit this temple. I call it temple then. So when I was there, everything I hear, everything I see, every corner I turn, I see an overflowing of compassion and loving kindness. And how people would go an extra mile in giving to strangers. And that was what, startled me the most, because in all my life until then, my giving was just cash donation. I'm always happy to donate, issuing a check and forget about it, right? And never get involved. I don't really want to roll out my sleeve to go and do any more than just giving cash. So that sounded strange to me. And I always ask myself then, can I do it? And do I really want to do this? So that is what the small vehicle mindset that I had. Was I convinced? I believe that, whatever Tzu Chi was doing then was really good, but I had doubt about myself, whether that's what I wanted to do. So when I came back, I had 1 or 2 conversations with Sister Sylvie, and, I didn't really put my heart and soul into doing anything. So I decided then that, okay, I want to reaffirm myself. I went back again in 2015. This time I joined the entrepreneur camp. And it was in the midst of the media hype. I don't need to go through what that media hype is. But, when Master came and addressed all of us, I still remember in this, the hall, I was taken in by her magnanimity. Instead of, being angry, she was worried about us. She came in, the first thing she did was she apologized for entangling all of us in this hype that was created by the media. And it was uncontrollable emotion again. I started crying, and why are people doing such bad things to her? Why are people saying such bad things about, Master? And Master did not even hear a single harsh words about all these journalists. And that was the time I realized what it means by there is no one that I will not forgive, because she had such a big heart and her mind was so spacious that she can take in all. Instead of worrying about herself, angry about everything else, she was worried about us. So when I came back, I told myself that, well, I have got to devote myself into doing more. So I took part in recycling, and I also had fun, playing the drums and all that. And most importantly, at the same time, there was this fundraising for the school. Now in Tzu Chi, actually at that time, I don't know a lot of people. It was totally outside my corporate circle of friends. But somehow when it comes to fundraising, I get involved. I mean, like Sister Sylvie doesn't really know me, and Sister Cheng never saw me before, then. But they trusted me, and I was roped in to champion the first fundraising for the school. And I remember it was the theater act, Travel China with Mother. And I took charge of that. And from then on, I became a fundraising committee for the school. And from then on, everything becomes history. And so I signed up for GNC in 2016, patient in 2017, and then commissioner at the end of 2017. So that was quite a journey, and that 2 songs really reminded me of, what brought me to Tzu Chi and my journey here. So coming back to sign language, what is it that I enjoy most and what is it that I learn? Actually, you know, that 1 hour of weekly practice was great meditation, because during that 1 hour, I have got to focus in that moment, because the moment my mind starts to wander, my hand goes in a different direction, right? You just become uncontrollable. So that in that 1 hour, I cannot multitask. Everybody knows that I constantly multitask, and my mind is like, you know, I'm Zoom meeting now, I'm thinking of the next Zoom. But in that 1 hour, it was a very, very welcome break from all of these, and I need to focus. And I think what is also beautiful is that, you know, you learn teamwork. You understand that group beauty is most important. It's not about individual, how well you perform, but the beauty is in the unison of the movements. So that is, you know, two great things. But also what is most important for me is I learned again to be much more conscious of my facial expression. You know, my children always tell me, Mommy, you know, the giveaway is always my facial expression. Even I don't say anything, they somehow know what is, or what I'm thinking, or what I'm expressing. You know, when they used to tell me, you know, when you squint your eyes, you know, it shows that you are not believing in what you say. And then when I squeeze my, you know, eyebrows together, it means that I am getting very impatient. And then my partners used to tell me that we know when you lose interest. It's the time when I look down, apparently, right? It's like, I don't want to hear anymore. And this time around, you know, Sister YY would keep telling me that, Sister, relax and smile. So it's something that, you know, you have to learn, and you always have to smile. So sisters and brothers, I hope that, you know, you will sign up to come and join, you know, the Pure Heart Sign Language. If I can do it, all of you can do it. Okay, that's my sharing this morning, and I'd like to call on Sister Angeline next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the sharing, Sister Karpeng. So I actually didn't prepare any PowerPoint slide, but I probably will just share a bit of my experience on the sign language. So although Japan time zone and Malaysia time zone is only 1 hour difference, and then like only 1 hour adjustments to go for the practice and doing the recording. To be honest, like maybe some might think that why you want to go to the extent to like stay up late, because there was one time I think our recording was until 12 in my time zone. So it's like 11 o'clock in Malaysia time. Like I cannot lie if it's not tiring, but then like there's those kind of satisfying feeling after the recording and after we practice all together. And to be honest, like I just wanted, because I know that how powerful is sign language, and the power of additional one person has a very, very big impact. So that time, actually, I just received an invitation from another teaching, and then like just out of curiosity, then just put my name and I'll join. So ever since like in Tzu Chi journey, I've always put a mindset, which is like, if I have the chance to contribute however I can, or however I can put my contribution, then I will just say yes and just put my name. And if there are other difficulties of time adjustments, I can manage to do it later. So my first answer is always a yes, and adjustments or the difficulties afterwards I will try to figure out a way to figure it out, how to find a way out. And so yes, I think that's all for my sharing. And I guess I will hand over to Sister MiaoLinIN.
Thank you, Sister Angeline. I'll just share my screen for a while. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much, Sister Angeline and Sister KarPeng. So good morning, brothers and sisters, and Shiku Shipo. Yeah, I'm very grateful that I can have this chance to share with everyone today. So actually for me, first of all, yeah, since I'm from the Philippines, some people may wonder that how did I join the sign language in Malaysia? So with this, I would actually also like to thank Sister Rachel. She was a Malaysian TCY, and I think, yeah, I'm with Sister Angeline and another sister, Sister Apple. And yeah, we are all joining this wisdom at dawn sharing. And yeah, usually we have this group that we share activities, and there was one time that Sister Rachel shared about the sign language, and yeah, personally, I'm keen to learn sign language. And yeah, before the pandemic, I also joined like the water repentance and others. Although in the Philippines, we haven't continued the water repentance, but yeah, those are some of my previous experience with sign language. And yeah, because of this group that I found my like-minded friends here and with some dawn sharing, we started this, we started joining this sign language. And actually, from what I can remember, we asked Rachel to teach us sign language that she learned. And actually, at that time, I'm not aware that we are joining another group. So we're just, yeah, because we are interested and we asked our friends to teach us, and it just came out that, oh, we become part of a bigger group. And I'm very grateful for this, for the brothers and sisters who are very friendly and welcoming, that yeah, every Sunday night, we are looking forward for this sign language together. And after that, we also have a prayer. And yeah, it's something I look forward to. And I'm also very grateful for the technology and Tzu Chi, who connected us, even if we haven't met physically, I think. Yeah, we are just online friends. But yeah, we know that we have our Dharma family in different places in the world. And with regards to the song, The Spirit of Great Love, which is there's no one in the world that I don't love, I don't trust, and I don't forgive. Actually, for me, by learning the sign language, we also learned about its meaning along the way. And it kind of reminded me of my childhood memories. And yeah, speaking about my childhood memories, I actually have two siblings. One is my elder sister, and I also have a younger brother. And yeah, to be honest, we used to fight a lot with my sister before. It's like when I did something wrong, she will beat me to educate me. And as a kid, my sister was 6 years older than me. So when I look at her, she was very tall before. And as a result, she always, and I always lose. And yeah, to be honest, I have this thought before that I hated her before because I was powerless. And I remember telling myself I wish in the future when I grow up. And aside from this, we are also not close to each other. And I think one of the reasons was because there was one time that I spilled her secrets. And yeah, I was just very small that time. I really know that, yeah, I admit that it was my mistake to break the promise, and it brought me a very big consequence. And yeah, guess what? No more stories for me for more than a decade. So we don't really talk about those stuff until yeah, until sometime. Yeah, I realized that my experience are also partially affected my experience also partially affected my personality. I am a private and shy person. Perhaps I'm afraid that others will be doing the same to me. Until 2016, I joined Tzu Chi, and my sister, she joined 2 years before me. So I joined because I love helping others. But when I joined, there was actually a very big challenge for me. So in Tzu Chi, after almost every activity, we have this thing called sharing. And this sharing time, I really just want to let the time pass and just dig a hole in. And yeah, it's either I cry or I don't speak whenever, yeah, it's sharing time. And I felt anxious and I'm afraid to say the wrong words. And I also have this barrier in my heart that I'm afraid to trust others. But despite it, I still actively participate in the different activities until I study deeper. I tried taking the step out to broaden my heart, and I realized that I can actually do it. And gradually, I untied the knot in my heart. And I realized that the world also has a brighter side, and we can trust and love others by starting from trusting ourselves and forgiving ourselves. And besides, I also learned how to empathize and to put myself in others' shoes. And I started to learn my sister's perspective as a child, that she used to be beaten up by my parents because, yeah, my parents, it's their first time of becoming a parents. And when my sister committed some mistakes, my parents might, but yeah, but when me and my brother was born, my parents learned that it was not the right way of educating the child. And upon seeing it, for my sister, she thinks that educating, yeah, as a young child, for my sister, she thinks that educating equals to beating. So for her, my parents are not educating us when we are not. So she took the role of educating us on behalf of my parents. And upon understanding her perspective that she also went through a lot, my thoughts of revenging has already disappeared. And we are now getting better and better because of Tzu Chi. And currently for Tzu Chi Philippines, we also have this fundraising activity. And I think that love, trust, and forgiveness is not just for people who we are close with. But Master said we need to love, trust, and forgive everyone. And recently, yeah, as I mentioned a while ago, Tzu Chi Philippines decided to purchase high-flow nasal oxygen machine to be donated to hospitals. And with this, Tzu Chi actually initiated the Iran Ishan fundraising activity. And it was actually inspired by my friends that, yeah, there was one time we joined this Xinfa and they shared about their Dharma joy, their fasi from doing this fundraising, and we are inspired. And we also started this, and we believe that by doing this with a kind act from everyone, we can mitigate the disasters. And by reaching out to people, I realized the importance of the spirit of great love. We believe that we are selfless and that everyone has love. And surprisingly, we were able to inspire more people to help. And for some of them, unexpectedly, they are the ones who are reaching out to us. And I realized what Master meant by someone in this world that I don't love, I don't trust, and I don't forgive. And I think that everyone, it also includes includes myself. And we forgive ourselves. We let go of the hard feelings in the past, our past mistakes. We repent and we learn from it. From there, we start to trust and trust the Tzu Chi path opened by Master, that we are capable of doing good, and that through perseverance and courage, we can inspire more and more like-minded people to do the same with us. And yeah, we also start to forgive those who may hurt us before, or yeah, and instead of hating them, we can love them. And we also love and help everyone, no matter what religion, race, nationality the person belongs to. Not just that, we also care for the animals and also the material life. And I think that's why Master is also telling us to become a vegan and to cherish the resources. And yeah, here's some realizations. So instead of saying use statements, we can ask ourselves, what can I do? So instead of asking, why don't other people love me, trust me, forgive me? We ask ourselves, what can I do for the world? How can I love others? Or how can I trust them? How can I work with other people in the group? And also forgive them for their wrongdoings. And I think it's when we are willing to serve and willing to bear and ask for nothing in return, we can let go of our sorrows, blame, and worries. And yeah, actually, this is it. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share with everyone today. And I hope that we can walk through this Bodhisattva path together. And it has always been one of my greatest wish that the legacy of Tzu Chi can last and be passed on from one generation to another. And I think Master also mentioned a while ago in Xun Fa Xiang Wisdom at Dawn that the slightest deviation results in the difference of 1,000 miles. And I think this is something we can remind ourselves about, to be determined with our decision despite the challenges along the way. And lastly, may peace prevail in the world through the spirit of great love. And I would like to thank the sign language team again for the wonderful experience. And for the next, may we invite Brother Joe for a few words.
Okay, thanks to the wonderful performance, and thanks to the sharing from three, once again, from the very beginning, Sister Tzu Chi said 3 angels, right? So we also have 3 angels today. The angels from Sister KarPeng, which is from Malaysia, and also Angeline from Japan, and MiaoLinIN from Philippines. Thank you, all of you. Quick reply to Sister KarPeng for mentioning first time seeing Master and seeing her out of her way to help others. I'm thinking out of her way as in saying that there's so much challenge and so much difficulties, because loving others is never out of her way. It's always on her way. That is her way. Just like you know, you think about you're learning sign language. That's out of your way. No, it's not out of your way. That is your way. That is the path that you choose. That is the path, as you mentioned about meditation, as you mentioned about to grow to be more like Master or learn from Master. And I think that is ultimately when we see something that is, you know, they need help and we have to do so much in order to help them. But that's what we do, because that's on our way. Okay, so that's why Master always said that you deliberately put yourself on the way to something, and that's really just telling you that you're not really on the way, but you deliberately put yourself there. And also going back to Sister Angeline from Japan, it was a very brief sharing, and once again tied back to the sign language. I think the difference in time, as Master mentioned many times, that even though there is actually time zone differences, for every second there is no difference, and I think it's very true. Master's telling us to look at the bigger picture in terms of time, in that it doesn't really matter whether you're 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock right now. What matters is what have you done in the past hour, or what have you done in the past 90 minutes? And that is the most important. And that's what Master had always been saying. It doesn't matter that you're 90 years old, 80 years old, or 70 years old, but what's more important is what you have done with your life. And lastly, I wanted to talk about what Sister MiaoLinIN talked about. I really enjoy her, the 1, 2, 3, right? The spirit of great love. And it really dawned on me, if I could just spare another few minutes on this, it really dawned on me what the 3 really meant, right? So first, not particular order, right? But there's no one in the world that I don't trust. And I think what Master was saying, I believe, in my perspective, what do you trust? You trust. It's not like, you know, I'm selling you something and you trust me that I'm giving you the best price. No, but you trust that there is always inherent good. There's always something good in everybody. That's what you trust. So you believe that there is good in everyone, but there's also bad. So what do? You forgive. You trust there is good in everyone, and you also know that there is bad. So you forgive that part. And then what do you do as a whole? You love both the good and the bad. So when you do 1, 2, 3, it's sort of it opens my mind to that, you know, 2 is trust. You trust that everybody has the goodness, but you forgive the the bad things or the negative things that everyone also has, and you love one person as a whole. You don't love just the good things and you hate their bad things, but you love them as a whole. And eventually you extend that love to mean that you also trust that they can change the good, that change the bad to the good. And you also forgive that on their way to change the bad to the good, sometimes they fail. So I think it's you know, the three bubbles that you have on your presentation. It's like, you know, at first, 2 is the trust. You trust the good and you forgive the bad, and the 1 encompasses all of them. And then when you love all, it makes you trust that they're helping, they're changing themselves, but you also forgive when they're changing and transforming themselves. Sometimes it doesn't work all the time and they fail. It's not, you know, you're trying to get rid of a bad habit. You try to kick a bad habit. It doesn't work. You fall back and you forgive and you love them still. And I think that's something that seeing that picture, it really brings this idea to my mind. So that's the spirit of Grade Up. Thank you all, and the wonderful sign language the sign language performance. And I wish we can do that more often. More sign language, wonderful. Okay, so until next week, we'll hear more stories, and we're gonna do more interaction, listen to everybody's ideas, and then learn from each other. Thank you all. Thank you. And hope everybody have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you.
And Brother Joe, wow, we look forward to next Saturday's session already. And Brother Joe for the wonderful heartfelt sharing. Of course, the team, Sister KarPeng, Sister Angeline, Sister MiaoLinIN, and facilitated by Sister Effie, very heartfelt, and I'm sure everyone, they are touched. Wow, indeed. There are many behind the scene, but because of time constraint, for this round, we will hear from these 3. Yes, Brother Joe, the team is very dedicated under Sister YY. Precision training every Sunday is still ongoing. There will be more sign language coming, and we open the invitation to everyone because it's online and anyone can join. Very kind to all these wonderful sharings, and as well as those who have contributed to the 7 parables today. Very kind, both at the Zoom as well as the YouTube side. And indeed, this sign language is really the sign of harmony, the song of harmony. And thank you, brothers and sisters, for your presence. Hope that each of us could Dharma joy and take in another piece of our Master and Hualien to our life.